Here's another toxic ex-best friend story time. So me and this girl became friends through a play that we were doing in school. The plays in my school were always mad funny, so everybody on set was really cool. We hit it off like this. She offered to drive me home after the rehearsals and the practices. We would always go to get coffee after our practices, but after doing that for a while, we just started hanging out after school. Well, eventually we got close and I invited her to this slumber party that I was having. Should've never done that. And here's why. I also invited my boyfriend of 5 months and my other close friends. We were all having a really good time, you know, busting it down, throwing it back, talking shit, playing games, whatever. We specifically talked a lot of shit about her ex-best friend. We, as in everybody at the slumber party. Emphasis on we. Keep that in mind. At this point, it was getting really late. It was like 2 a.m. I ended up dozing off and falling asleep. Now, I woke up to some very slight clapping, and so I turn around. I see my best friend doing the spread eagle on my boyfriend. Part 2 of my toxic ex-best friend story time. I wake up because I hear some clapping, and I turn around. I see my best friend doing the spread eagle on my boyfriend. Busted wide open. No remorse. None. So my best friend at the time sees me looking at them, giving me a very much, "Oh, you wish that was you, huh?" look. You're probably wondering what was going through my mind at that moment. Well, murder wasn't on my mind, surprisingly. I had another plan. So once my boyfriend notices that I'm awake, he tries to push her off of him as if he wasn't just doing what he was doing, and tries to apologize, saying things like, "Oh, I didn't know what I was doing. You were asleep. I just couldn't help myself." You know, just a bunch of bullshit. And so I'm like, y'all putting on a show with the amazing actress that I am? Not gonna let me join? You know I always get the lead roles in the plays. Come on. Mind you, I was basically completely over my boyfriend at this point. I already started losing interest in him. This basically just did it for me. So I'm like, hello, lights, camera, action, let's get it going. And so I start to go down on him. Then I just take a big old bite right from his dick. Part 3 of my toxic ex-best friend story time. Well, like I said, I wake up from my own slumber party and see my best friend and my boyfriend getting it in at like 3 a.m. in the morning. I asked to join, and then I took a chomp out of my boyfriend's badonkadonk. And not only did I do that, but right after I took that big ass bite, I turned to my best friend, bit her titty. Now we were all equal because now they're feeling the pain that I'm feeling. So now my boyfriend's mad. My best friend is crying. And I can't lie, I loved to see it. The tears rolling down her face was just, there's something about it. Just made me want to. Anywho, obviously I kicked them out of my house. I used to realize that I had bought my boyfriend a gift. It was over like $500 and I wanted that shit back. So I pulled up to his house and his mom answered the door. So I'm like, how you doing, Miss Judge 𝙤𝙤𝙧𝙚? I am here to get my money from this man. He did end up giving me back the gift. Getting a lot of texts from my best friend at the time. She was just trying to apologize, trying to make it seem like she really felt bad or something. After I completely ignored her and left her on red, she went ahead and posted a video of her on top of my boyfriend. You can see me sleeping next to them in the video. Part 4 of my toxic ex-best friend story time. So like I said, I kicked my boyfriend out and my best friend out after I saw them sleeping together at my slumber party. One day I started getting flooded with texts, and then I get sent a video that my best friend posted of her on top of my boyfriend, and you can see me sleeping in the video right next to them. Obviously I was 1, embarrassed, and 2, thinking of an escape plan for when I have to escape from jail. I'm just kidding. I wanted to be petty, but I decided to take the smarter route instead. I didn't even bother texting her or saying anything to her at all. I screenshotted all of the videos that she was posting from her account. Not to mention she captioned it, "Couldn't even keep your man, sis. Didn't even want him." Anywho, she also posted a video of a voice recording of us all talking shit about her ex-best friend. All of us were talking shit, but she said in the caption that it was just me. Well, my other close friends were there and they vouched for me that it wasn't just me. So she just looked dumb. And I just ended up telling the school what happened. I brought other people who saw what happened for proof, because having the pictures on my phone would get me in trouble. And so she ended up getting expelled and got charged for having and spreading child pornography. Ladies, this is why you should always be cautious while driving alone at nighttime. If you ever find yourself in a situation where a car is following you or making every single turn that you make, do not, and I repeat, do not drive home. And this is why. So I started talking to this one guy through this online dating app. Yes, I know the dangers, baby. I was desperate. I was taking my chances regardless. I decided to go on a date, and that would be the first time that I would ever see him in person. Never FaceTime before this, and he looked exactly how he did in his pictures. The way I was ready to with his fine self. Point is, he looked scrumptious. Scrumptious. Anyways, y'all get it. Y'all get the point. Well, I was already at the restaurant we were supposed to meet up at, and I was waiting for him. We had a really good time, but it was time for me to go to bed because I was getting tired. Mind you, I didn't see his car when he pulled up. He just walked in. But anyways, I start to drive home. Well, 15 minutes into the drive, I kind of noticed that there's a car behind me that has taken every single turn that I have taken since I left the restaurant. So I started taking random turns to see if the car would still follow me, and it did. Well, eventually, I stopped to park in a random driveway. At first, that same car passes by me, but then it turns right back around and parks behind my car. Part 2 of why ladies should always be cautious while driving alone at nighttime. And if a random car starts following you, to never drive home. So like I said, I noticed this random car following me, so I didn't drive home. I parked into some random driveway and the same car that was following me drove right past me. I waited a little bit to see if I was in the clear, and I see that same car driving right back towards my direction. That's when I duck. I basically try to make it seem like I went inside, even though it's not really my house. Well, he ends up parking right behind my car, and he gets out of his car. At this point, I was terrified, but at least I was in my car so I could run him over if need be. And thankfully, I have tinted windows, so when he walked past my car, he didn't see me because I was ducking. I didn't really get to see his face or what he was wearing. He basically looked like a black figure. Like I said, it was really dark outside. Whoever's house I was didn't keep their front porch lights on, thankfully. Then maybe he would have seen me. Well, he gets to the front porch. That's when I immediately get up, turn my car back on, and drive home. Well, the next morning, I was woken up by someone ringing my doorbell. Look outside and I see the same car from last night parked in my driveway. Part 3 of why ladies should always be cautious while driving alone at nighttime. Like I said, I was able to get away from whoever was following my car last night. Well, the next morning, someone was ringing my doorbell, so I woke up. I look outside my window because my bedroom window is right at the front of my house. I see the same car that was following me last night parked in my driveway. I didn't know what to do at this point, but I thought that I should at least try to see what he looks like. So I go to my door and I look through that little peephole. When I say I almost passed away, it is not an exaggeration. It was my date from last night. I swing open my door and I'm like, motherfucker, how did you find me? I didn't give you my address. I straight up confront him. I'm not playing around. I say, were you following me last night? He goes, oh, I just forgot to get your number. At the moment, I was thinking he could be telling the truth because we did only talk through that online dating app. We never exchanged numbers. So I went ahead and gave him my number and didn't think much of it. That was a big mistake. The next day, I woke up to 200 missed calls and 50 texts from him. Part 4 of why ladies should be cautious while driving home alone at nighttime. So my date shows up to my house, aka the dude that was following me last night, and says that he was following me because he never got to get my number. Low-key believed him because we never did exchange numbers. I kinda thought it was a little cute. He would follow me just to get my number. At the time, I wasn't really thinking that he could have just texted me on the dating app for my number. But yeah, I should have never gave him my number. Because when I woke up the next day, I had 200 missed calls and 50 texts from him. So I start reading the texts, and it was not an emergency. It was actually a nightmare. Text read something along the lines of, text me back right now, where the hell are you? I need you. Call me back or I swear to God. Well, I didn't even bother replying. But as the day went on, he kept texting me and he kept calling me. The texts turned into threats. I was thinking about just blocking him. Then I remembered since he followed me and I drove home, he knew my address. Part 5 of why ladies should always be cautious while driving alone at night. Like I said, I gave my date my phone number. Then the next morning, I woke up to a bunch of spam texts and calls from him. Basically just saying things like, call me back right now, I need you, text me back. And then his text started getting worse. They started saying things like, if you don't text me back, I'm gonna kill you. I was thinking about blocking him, but I didn't want to make him mad because he knew where I lived. I show his messages and all his calls to my girlfriend. They just tell me to go to the police. One of my really good friends came over and took me to the police station because she didn't want me leaving my house by myself. Well, when we got there, they told us that they couldn't even do anything because he hadn't committed a crime yet. And that the threats that he sent me just weren't enough to make a case. Well, I did end up blocking him. I blocked his number and I blocked him on the online dating site. Basically moved in with my friend. It's been like a week now and I haven't really went home. My girlfriends and family are now helping me find a new place to stay. If there's any advice that anyone wants to give me, please leave it in the comments. Story time of how 2 girls at my school were pregnant by the same guy. Let's get into it. So there was this one girl that went to my school. Let's call her Nami. Nami was the definition of problematic. She beat up everybody. Talked the most shit because she knew she could back it up. Yeah, my good sis Nami, she wasn't strong. She was strong. Another thing about her is that she was the plug for everything. She had chargers. She had food. She was the plug for everybody. There was this one really popular boy at our school. He was like the finest boy at our school. Now, mind you, Nami was not that cute. But he started messing with Nami and everybody knew that he was playing her. She swore up and down that everybody was just mad. That everybody was just a hater. He was a player and a heartbreaker child. We knew what was up. Well, rumors started going around that Nami was pregnant. But she never confirmed it until she got word that that popular guy that she was messing with another girl. Well, rumors started going around that that girl was pregnant too. Nami was not having it. She took it upon herself to start going off on her Instagram story. Started posting receipts. And I have some of these posts on my Instagram story, so make sure to go check it out. In one post, she confirmed that she was pregnant. She also said she was gonna beat up that girl the next day. They had to call the ambulance. Y'all like for part 2? Part 2 of how 2 girls at my school were pregnant by the same guy. Let's jump right into it. So like I said, Nami was going off on her Instagram story, confirmed that she was pregnant. I have some more of the receipts on my Instagram story, so make sure to go check it out. She said that she was gonna beat up that other girl that her man was messing with the next day. The next day came, babes, it came. Baby, I was just walking the second period and I see Nami. I see Nami drop her shit and start swinging. She's going crazy. When I tell y'all this girl can fight, well, the other girl got beat up pretty bad and they had to call an ambulance. Multiple ambulances. And apparently that girl was pregnant, but she ended up losing her baby in the fight. You have the video of this fight. I can't post it because I don't want Nami to come for me, but also because it's graphic because the other girl lost her baby during that fight. Things only got worse from there. So apparently this complete other girl was also pregnant by Nami's man. Nami was not having it. Since Nami got expelled because she beat up that other girl so bad, she pulled up to this new girl's house. This is where things get insane. Like for part 3. Part 3 of how 2 girls in my school were pregnant by the same guy. So like I said, Nami got word that this other girl was pregnant by her boyfriend too. She pulled up to this girl's house and whooped her ass too. That girl didn't lose her baby, but turns out it wasn't even Nami's boyfriend's baby. It was somebody else's baby. Hopefully that girl was okay, everything was fine. Well, after that, Nami just like disappeared for a while. Everyone was confused. We were like, where the fuck is Nami? She talks shit every single day. People even got a hold of her friends and her friends didn't know where she was at either. She wasn't posting on social media. Literally nobody was in contact with her. She just went ghost. Well, eventually, apparently she had a fallout with her best friend, and her best friend felt that she was done dirty by Nami. So, she took it upon herself to start spilling some tea on her Instagram story. She let everybody know why Nami went ghost. She said Nami told all of her friends to keep this a secret. She wasn't gonna keep it a secret no more because that ain't her friend no more. She said Nami was too embarrassed to come back to social media because she had gotten into a car crash and lost her baby. Story time about my boyfriend's crazy ex-girlfriend and how she tried to kill me. So I've had problems with my boyfriend's ex-girlfriend multiple times before. First met her when she DM'd me going off on me because I was dating her ex. Well, she apologized and we became really good friends. We actually got really close. We got so close to the point where she actually moved in with me. I even introduced her to my other friends and we all became really close. One day my dad comes over to my apartment and after he left, she was being really weird. She wouldn't talk to me, she was ignoring me, she was being really short with me. And over the next week or so, I noticed my other friends becoming really distant. Well, one of my friends decided to finally talk to me. She told me that my boyfriend's ex-girlfriend told all of them that when my dad came over, he had grabbed her butt and she told me about it. I didn't do anything, which was a fat lie. That's not even the half of it. She lied to everyone about having cancer so she could get money. She tried to start a fight with me because she claimed I stole her stuff. She blocked me after that. Well, one day one of my really close friends that she was also friends with sent me a post she made on her Instagram. She posted a dead dog and captioned it, "My heart is torn. I accidentally ran over my dog." It was my dog. Like for part 2. Part 2 about my boyfriend's crazy ex-girlfriend and how she tried to kill me. So like I said, my boyfriend's crazy ex-girlfriend posted a dead dog on her Instagram, captioned it saying she was so sad she accidentally ran over her dog. Well, it was my dog. At this time, I'm not home, so I immediately go home. Like I said, she lived with me and I could tell that that picture was taken in the front of my apartment. But when I pull up, I see her looking out our window. When she sees me, she runs away from the window. I'm livid at this point. This bitch killed my dog. So I run to get into my apartment and she meets me at the door. She tells me that there's a fire in our apartment to leave all my belongings outside. So I drop my phone, purse, keys, and we run up to the apartment. She shows me the fire, says she's gonna go get help, and runs out of the apartment and closes the door behind her. Get a bucket and fill it up with water and put some of the fire out. While I think my boyfriend's ex is going to go get help. Well, the fire started growing faster and I needed to ditch and get out of the apartment. When I tried to get out, I noticed that the lock on the door was changed. The part where you put in your key to get into your apartment was on the inside facing me. I didn't have my keys because she told me to leave them outside. Like for part 3. Part 3 of my boyfriend's crazy ex-girlfriend and how she tried to kill me. My boyfriend's crazy ex-girlfriend locks me inside my apartment while there's a fire and I couldn't get out because she changed the lock on the door. So I knew my only choice was to put out the fire unless I wanted to jump out the window. Well, the smoke is getting really thick at this point. The fire had not gotten out of hand yet, so there was still a chance that I could put it out and save my stuff and my life. I know I should have jumped out the window, but I wanted to save my stuff too. So I open up my window and start filling up that same bucket of water over and over again. And I keep pouring it on the fire, damn near about to pass out because of the smoke. The fire eventually does go out. And then I jump out the window because that's the only way for me to get out. But as I'm walking away from the apartment, my boyfriend's ex is standing there and she gives me this look. She was annoyed that I was alive. When the firefighters and the police arrive, the police start questioning everyone, and when they question me, I tell them that she tried to kill me and also put everybody else in the apartment's life in danger too. But after they took her down to the station to question her, she confessed to everything, including killing my dog. Now she's serving time in jail for attempted murder of me and my neighbors. Y'all please! I will never hang out with a white boy again. This white boy came to pick me up because, you know, I was trying to get that little diddly dick. And as soon as we get into the car, he's smiling at first and then he starts looking at me weird. I'm just like, okay, whatever. So we drive to his house. His mom is I'm not gonna be able to get through. His mom is there and she looks fucking terrified when she looks at me. I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm probably the first bad bitch that he brought to this house. I'm sorry. So we go into his room. You know, we're just chilling, watching a movie, whatever. And then his mom pulls him out of the room. When he comes back, he asks me, do you need to go to the hospital? I'm like, no. Why the fuck would I need to go to the hospital? He looks at me. He's like, oh, me and my mom noticed that your scalp is peeling off. It was my fucking lace. My fucking lace friend. I'm like, what? And I run into the bathroom and I'm looking in the mirror. I look in the mirror and I see a whole part of my lace is lifted up. Once I told him it was my hair, got mad and called me a catfish. He made me Uber myself home. Y'all, we ain't never getting out this platypus. We finna have a COVID-22, COVID-23, COVID-24. We ain't ever getting out this pandemic because of this foolishness. I order food every single day. I am a hungry bitch. I use DoorDash and they have like this no contact delivery thing. And usually when the delivery person arrives, they call me to let me know that they have my food. I always tell them to leave it at the front porch and I'll go get it. And so they leave it at the front porch and then they drive away. Well, yesterday when I ordered Chipotle, this Dasher called me to let me know that he was here. I told him to leave it at the front and he just stood in my front porch for like 5 minutes. Once he realized I wasn't coming out, then he left. Weird vibes. Like I was scared to get the food even after he left because I thought he was gonna jump out the bushes. So this is what I got. I got a burrito, and in Chipotle you have the option to like double wrap your burrito with the tortilla. I didn't get that, but if I did, it would have showed up on here. Usually when I get my food, I just bite into it. But this time I decided to check it because this guy was giving me such bad vibes. He had the audacity to double wrap it with the tortilla to hide the fact that he took a huge chunk. Once I told him it was my hair, got mad and called me a catfish. He made me Uber myself home. Time of why I'll never ride in a subway ever again. I was on my way home after spending the weekend with my friend. I sit on this bench waiting for my train. This bench was right in front of this wall. It was placed on the edge of the wall where you would like turn the corner. And on that wall behind me, there was a ledge. So I had all my bags and I had my water bottle and I put it on that ledge. At the subway station, there was only like 3 people. Mind you, it was like nighttime. I noticed this creepy old man with a cane. Something in me was telling me to just Uber home. But I just stayed at the subway station because really nothing was going on for me to feel like that, if that makes sense. So I just ignored that feeling and waited for my train. I turned around to get my water bottle so I could get a sip of it. I noticed this man standing right on the corner of the wall and he was not there before, so I was kind of creeped out. He just smiles and waves at me, so I smile and wave back. I get my water bottle and I take a sip from it. Well, the train finally arrives and I start to get my bags together so I can get on the train. By the time I got everything together, it seemed like everybody else had already gotten the train except for the old man with the cane. As I was about to get on the train, he stopped me. He said not to get on the train because the man that appeared behind me had switched out my water bottle when I wasn't looking. It's a good thing I didn't get on the train. Or was it? Like for part 2, because this is where things start to get really weird. Part 2 of why I'll never ride the subway ever again. Like I said, the old man stopped me because he said the man that appeared behind me had switched out my water bottle when I wasn't looking, and I had already taken a sip from it, so good thing I didn't get on the train. So now me and that old man were the only ones in the station. I thank him and then I start to get tingles all over my body. Like I'm getting really sleepy. So I start to leave the subway to catch an Uber instead. My body keeps getting more and more tired. Next thing you know, I black out. When I woke up, I was back on the bench, and the old man with the cane was sitting right next to me, looking at me. I start to panic and he says everything is okay, and that when he started to leave the station behind me, he noticed that I was passed out, so he picked me up and took all of my stuff and put me back on the bench. And he stayed with me to make sure that I was safe, not just passed out in the subway station by myself. So I'm thinking, wow, this old man is literally amazing. I thank him and start grabbing my stuff so I can leave. But as I'm leaving, I get a really weird feeling. I decided to glance behind me one more time, and there I see the man who supposedly switched out my water bottle turn the corner and start talking and laughing with the old man with the cane. Part 3 of why I'll never ride the subway ever again. So like I said, I see that same man who supposedly switched out my water bottle and put something in my drink that made me pass out in the corner and start talking to the old man with the cane who had told me that that same guy switched out my water bottle. My blood runs cold and I run. I run out of their sight as fast as possible. When I get out of the station, I run for blocks just in case they try to follow me. Once I get far enough, I hide behind a building and I order myself an Uber. I'm hiding behind a building because I'm super paranoid in case they're like in a car that drives by, so like they don't see me. I wait for the Uber to arrive and I get in and I get home safely. My parents were expecting me to be home that night, so as you can imagine, they were super worried as to why I got home so late. I had just told them that I forgot something at my friend's house, so I had to turn around and go back, and that my phone had died, so I wasn't able to contact them. I didn't want to worry them, so I didn't tell them anything about the 2 men until I went upstairs to change. I took off my jacket. I noticed that the blouse that I had under it was unbuttoned. My bra was gone, and when I take off my pants, I see blood. That's when I run and tell my parents, like for part 4. Part 4 of why I'll never ride the subway ever again. So like I said, after that really weird encounter with those 2 men at the subway station, I get home safely and I start to undress, but when I take off my jacket, I noticed that the blouse that I was wearing under it was unbuttoned, my bra was gone, and when I took off my pants, there was blood. If you know what I mean. That's when I start crying and I run to tell my parents exactly what happened. I told them that I didn't tell them before because I didn't want to scare them. They were really understanding, and the next day we went to the hospital. Well, once I got checked, they said they found wooden splinters inside of me. I must have not even felt that because of all the adrenaline that I had running through my body. And then I start to think, but why would there be wood? And then I remember that that old man's cane was wooden. After we left the hospital, my parents and I filed a police report. They opened an investigation and asked me to describe what the men looked like. They said they would check out the cameras at the subway station. But when they got there, they were told that that subway station didn't have cameras. And so they decided to take DNA samples from my clothing that I wore that night. And a match actually came back. Like for part 5. Part 5 of why I'll never ride the subway station ever again. So once they took DNA samples from my clothing from that night I was at the subway station, they found a match, and yup, it was that old man with the cane. But there was only one DNA match, and it was just that old man with the cane. I was able to tell them, like, yeah, that was that same guy with the wooden cane. Well, it turns out the old man with the cane was already in the system. He had gotten arrested before. He had attempted to murder and sexually assaulted his own niece. Had got let off on parole. There was so much evidence against him, and also the fact that he tried something similar on his niece. They arrested him again. I also forgot to mention they took samples of his wooden cane, like the splinters that were found inside me. They matched it up to be like the same kind of wood. Anyways, so we go through the court proceedings and stuff, and now he's locked up for like 20 years, I'm pretty sure. I never rode in that subway station ever again, and I don't plan on riding in any subway station ever again. And that other man that helped the old man with the cane is still somewhere out there because there wasn't enough evidence against him. Part 5. Let me tell you about this story of me while I was in the psych ward. Don't ask why I was in the psych ward, just know that I was there. Okay, so while I was there, we had to do these group meetings as soon as we woke up and before we went to bed. We had to wake up at like 9 a.m. in the morning. I hated it there. I was depressed. I'd always give the workers shit about going to those meetings. I was like, fuck y'all, I'm not going to those goddamn meetings. One night my stomach was hurting really bad, so they let me skip the meeting and sleep early. And I had gotten up in the middle of the night to go ask for some stomach medicine. When I walk out my room, I see this little boy standing at the end of the hall, like... And so I'm like, hello? And this motherfucker goes... and starts hissing at me like, mind you, when he went, he had scissors in his hand. I knew I could outrun that motherfucker, so I started hissing at him back. I said, yeah, motherfucker, what's up, little mail packet? Yeah, what's really going on? Then he starts going, oh. So I match his energy once again, and I start going, who the fuck is you doing that to? Then he picks up his scissors like this and charges dead at me. I zoomed out that hallway so fast. Bitch, I disappeared. I left for part 2 because it only gets worse. Part 2 of the story of me in the psych ward. So like I said, this little white boy who's like 4'8" starts chasing me down the hallway with his little chicken legs. Mind you, he had scissors in his hands. Oh, he was actually trying to kill me. You'll know why I think that in the end. So mind you, while he was chasing me, I did not look back. Not once. I didn't know if this motherfucker was gonna start climbing the walls. I don't know if he was gonna start crawling on the ceiling. My main goal was just to get away. So I eventually make it to the front desk. I look behind me to see if he was still there. Well, he wasn't, so I'm guessing that he stopped chasing me at the end of the hall. The front desk lady is looking at me like, mind you, we weren't allowed to carry scissors or even pencils or anything like that because it was dangerous. And so I didn't want to get that little boy in trouble, so I just told her like, no, I'm good. I just need medicine. Well, eventually they did end up finding him with the scissors anyways and took it away from him. But baby, he found a way to get that shit back. The next morning, everybody came out for breakfast, and these workers were dragging the same little boy out of his room. And he was like kicking and screaming and all of that. Well, turns out he stole another pair of scissors in the middle of the night, stabbed another kid in his sleep. Part 3 of the story of me in the psych ward. So like I said, this same little boy who was chasing me last night with a pair of scissors had sneaked into another kid's room in the middle of the night and stabbed him in his sleep. This little boy's goal was to harm. And it could have easily been me. And I was over there fucking around with that kid talking about, hissing at him because he was hissing at me. I could have died. What if I couldn't have outran him? I would have gotten stabbed. I thought that it was just some weird little boy. I did not think that he was trying to really hurt somebody. Well, rumors started going around the psych ward that the reason that he stabbed that other kid was because he had asked that other boy, I think it was a boy that he stabbed, for his Roblox username so they could play together when they get out. And that kid said no because of the HIPAA violation or whatever. So while that kid was sleeping in the middle of the night, he had gone into his room and stabbed him because he didn't give him his Roblox username. Part 3, talking about how I accidentally got in a high-speed police car chase. The whole time a bitch just wanted pizza, but somehow I ended up in jail. So there was this new guy at my job. He had been working for like a week. So one night I was home alone, no food in the house, and I had gotten a text from the guy at work asking if I wanted to go out with him and his homeboy. They were gonna go get food. If he's asking, that means he's paying. Y'all know I don't play about my free food. I didn't have a car, so they came to pick me up. I got into the car, there was like 5 dudes. He said homeboy. So I was confused. Like, why is there 5 Negroes in the car? Anyway, so we started driving to the restaurant. We were all in the car and the guy from work was sitting right next to me. His friend who was driving gets a call. When he hangs up, he looks at us and says, "We got business." I'm thinking, we? Business? Like a business transaction? We signing contract? I was dead wrong. This Negro takes the wheel and makes a U-turn in the middle of traffic. Eventually pull up on this guy that was walking on the side of the street. They all get out of the car and start whooping this man. And I'm thinking, damn, I ain't get my pizza tonight. Eventually we see red and blue lights. There was a cop parked on the corner. They run back in the car and we speed off and the cop speeds right after us. Part 2 of how I accidentally got into a high-speed police car chase. So after jumping that random guy on the side of the street, they see a cop car pulling up and so they get back into the car and we speed off and the cop car speeds right after us. I was scared as hell, so I told the driver, slow down. He looks back and tells me to shut my twig ass up. I shut my twig ass up. Dude must have thought he was in a movie running red lights, turning street. He didn't really get far. Ended up crashing the car. So the police get out the car. There's like multiple police cars pulling up now. They get us out of the car and start to arrest us. I'm trying to tell them like, I just wanted pizza. I don't even know these niggas. One of the guys tried to make a run for it, but he was sagging, so he ended up tripping on his own pants like a dumbass. And so yeah, we all get arrested and get taken to jail. When we got to the jail, they questioned us. I was expecting the guys to tell the cops the truth. I just wanted pizza and I had no part in what they did. But no, they actually told the cops that I was involved. And not only was I involved, but that it was my plan to beat up that guy on the side of the street. Yeah, I didn't go home from jail that night. Like for part 3. Part 3 of how I accidentally got into a high-speed police car chase. So after we got arrested, we went to jail and the police questioned us. The guys had told the police that I was the one who made the plan to beat up this random guy on the side of the street and that I was the one telling them to drive, to get away from the police and everything. That was a whole bunch of bullshit, and thankfully I had proof that it was bullshit. But they made me spend the night in jail anyways. The next day I had showed them on my phone the text message that the guy from work had sent me asking me to hang out with him that night, which completely proved that everything that him and his friends said blaming everything on me was a lie, because they had said that I was the one who hit them up and asked for a ride. I had text messages that said otherwise. They basically just did a little call test to see if that number was actually his number. His phone rang and they let me go home. Well, the next day I called my manager and let him know what happened, and from there on out I never saw him at work again. So I'm guessing that he either went to prison or he got fired. Story time about how I found out my best friend's boyfriend was abusing her. But not only was he abusing her, he had lured her into a cult and was using her for sacrifice. So me and my best friend were living together at the time. She was sitting on the couch taking surveys to make money online. She had made $3K in one day by doing these surveys. Link in my bio if you want to make bank. So she told me about this guy that she had been seeing. I was really happy for her because she had recently just gone through a bad breakup. The longer they were together, she started to get really sick really fast. She was a super healthy girl, like she worked out, she ate right. So the fact that she rapidly started getting sick as soon as she got a new boyfriend kind of worried me. So I tried to talk to her about it, but she got really mad at me. I was trying to tell her to go to the hospital to at least get checked out, but she kept refusing, and as we were arguing, she damn near passed out because how weak and sick she was. I didn't see her for a couple days after that. I thought that she had left the house after we argued. Well, after those few days, I started to notice a really bad smell coming from her room. So I go to check it out. When I open the door, I see her body just laying there. Laying there covered in satanic symbols, with a circle with a star in the middle, and there was blood coming out of her mouth. I ran out of time, so like for part 2. Story time about part 2 of how I found out my best friend was getting abused by her boyfriend and how he lured her into a cult to use her for sacrifice. So like I said, I walked into my best friend's room and her body was just laying there. She was covered in satanic symbols and had blood coming out of her mouth. I thought that she had left the house after we argued and went to stay with someone else. I didn't see her coming in and out of the house and she wasn't texting me. We did get into an argument and I thought she wasn't talking to me because she wanted to cool off. So I immediately called the police. They took her to the hospital and they also looked around her room and around the house. Well, when they looked around her room, they had found chewed up dead rats in her closet. She had found out that it was her eating those dead rats when she had went to the hospital and they found it in her system. She ended up being in a coma. The police seemed really suspicious of me and was asking me a lot of questions. It does make sense because I was the last person to be seen with her. Well, a few days later, I get a knock on my door. It's the police. They arrested me on suspicion of trying to kill my own best friend. But not because they were suspicious of me, but because my best friend's boyfriend had told the police that my best friend had told him she had overheard a conversation while I was on the phone about me trying to get rid of her for good. Part 3 of how I found out my best friend was getting abused by her boyfriend and he had lured her into a cult to use her for sacrifice. The police had showed up at my house and had arrested me for suspicion of trying to murder my own best friend. Because my best friend's boyfriend had told them that I had a plan to get rid of her for good. So police took me into custody. Apparently my best friend's boyfriend had evidence against me, which was a note that she had written saying that I had a plan to get rid of her, which she had given to her boyfriend, who didn't know what to do with it until now. She had signed that note. They had checked the signature, handwriting, and the way that the letter was written with her parents just to make sure that it was really her. And her parents said, yes, this is 100% her. Mind you, I was completely innocent. Whatever she wrote in this letter was not true. My best friend is not the type to make up lies like that, especially about people who are really close to her. That's when I knew that her boyfriend definitely did something. Well, a miracle happened, child. A miracle happened. My best friend woke up from her coma. She said she was done being brainwashed by her boyfriend and she was ready to tell the police everything about the truth. Found out my best friend's boyfriend was abusing her and lured her into a cult to use her for sacrifice. So while my best friend's boyfriend is trying to tell everybody that I tried to kill my own best friend, she woke up from her coma. She was ready to tell police everything. She said she had met him in the library and they were looking for the exact same book. They started talking, he asked her out on a date, and everything was good from there. He was actually really sweet. He spoiled her, gave her everything that she wanted, and then he started inviting her to these therapy meetings. In these meetings, they would do satanic rituals. They would literally do chants and draw satanic symbols all over their body. And obviously this wasn't her thing, so she told her boyfriend that she didn't want to go to those meetings anymore. Well, that's when he started abusing her and saying things like, I buy you every single thing that you want and this is how you're gonna treat me. She was so blindly in love with him that she kept going to these meetings. And she never told anyone because she was scared of what he would do. Well, she started to get more and more uncomfortable around him and he started to notice that. And in one of these meetings, they said that they would need a volunteer to eat dead rats for a sacrifice. Her boyfriend offered for her to do it. For part five of how I found out my best friend's boyfriend was abusing her and tried to lure her into a cult to use her for sacrifice. So like I said, her boyfriend was taking her to these meetings. It was a cult. In one of the meetings, they needed somebody to eat dead rats for a sacrifice. And her boyfriend basically offered up his girlfriend, my best friend. What the sacrifice was for, I have no idea. Anyway, so yeah, she's eating the dead rats and shit. And basically eating all these dead rats was supposed to like kill her. And he basically told her if he didn't eat the dead rats, then he would get his guys from the meeting to do something to her. Well, eventually the day of the sacrifice came. So one day he forced her to write the note. He was the one who forced her to write it. She didn't write it herself willingly. To basically say that it was me who put her in a coma when it was actually him, so he didn't get in trouble. They arrested him and he went to jail.